This is Anarchast.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. I have coming in from the greater Philadelphia area, Katy Khaos. She's a public school teacher in the government indoctrination camps, and she has a lot of interesting views on that, as well as this past week has been Memorial Day weekend in the U.S., and so we're going to talk a little bit about the military, because she just actually did a video which is called "Thank You for Your Service." Actually, we're going to play this video right now. It's about 4 minutes long. It takes about 2 minutes to get going, but the last 2 minutes are pretty good. And we'll get back to the interview after that, and we'll ask Katy how she became an anarchist.
Oh, the famous question. I'm actually kind of young, I would say, in terms of liberty years. I guess I really only caught on to the whole anarchy thing maybe a year ago. I guess I'm coming up on my awake anniversary. And I really just found out about it through the internet and curiosity. I went a lot of my life kind of being very apathetic and asleep. I don't know, I was just watching TV one day back when I was like maybe 20, 21, and I stumbled upon Glenn Beck. And he was just saying some different things that got me thinking. I guess I was a conservative for maybe a year and a half, kind of idled there for a while. And then the whole Ron Paul campaign started getting huge in 2012. So I'm still very new. And I got real into libertarianism. I went on YouTube, I typed in, libertarian girl, and Julie Borowski popped up. And she started saying all the stuff that made sense. And I idled again as kind of like a Ron Paul libertarian constitutionalist. And Amanda Billy Rock, I know you interviewed her before. She was a huge Ron Paul supporter too. And then one day she just started dropping the A word, and I had never heard that before. So it really got me thinking. I kind of laughed it off at first, but then she had this whole website going where that introduced me to a whole lot of other people. Adam Kokesh, Ben Stone, Bad Quaker, he's one of my favorites, the Freedom Fiends, and they just started talking all this sense. They were talking about the non-aggression principle. They were talking about self-ownership, private property, Austrian economics. I'm big into math, so that interested me a lot. And I went on a binge. Like I started learning ferociously through podcasts and a couple books and YouTube and just internet searches. And for a couple months there, I could not stop consuming information and not. And it kind of got to the point where I reached a saturation point, and now I kind of want to create a little bit to help, consolidate my ideas and verbalize them and just kind of have a cool outlet for that. So that's kind of, the journey. I don't know a real life anarchist that doesn't exist, in real life. I just know digital ones in internet land. So.
Well, that's funny, and that's also great because that's what I've been hoping would be happening with some of the stuff I've been doing is that people sort of catch on to what's going on. They hear from these people, many of past Anarchast guests, Adam Kokesh, Amanda Billy Rock. I don't have Ben Stone. I haven't had Ben Stone on yet, but he's going to be at Pork Fest, which I'm going to in a few weeks. So I'm hoping to get him on. And
Yeah,
yeah, so it's really great. And also what I've been hoping is that a lot of the people that have caught on to this and started going into it quite a bit and understand it, start to put out their own sort of content, because every single person who puts out their own content can kind of get their own sort of market. Some people like a certain way that some people say things, some people like a certain style. And so the more that are out there doing these things, and especially, and I've been talking about this for a while, the more pretty younger women that can be out there talking about these things, the better, because they always seem to get the most views, and that's great. I love it, and it's awesome. And so I was glad to see your video, and the video is great. And that's something that you were mentioning that you actually got part of the idea for it from something I had said.
Right. I listen to your show a lot. I don't get to see it a lot on YouTube, but it's a perfect length show where I can listen on my commute. And you kept saying thank you for your service to Anthony Antonello. And it just got me thinking about all these different people, professions, agorists out there that I would want to thank for their service. We're so used to hearing that phrase over and over again, especially around Memorial Day, and it just really gets overused for the wrong people. I hate to say it, but so I made that video. And I heard your podcast after a wave of propaganda that just kind of tornadoed through the school that I work at. I'm actually a public school teacher. And we do a lot. Like I work at a tech school that's academic and tech, kind of like a comprehensive school. And it's a hotbed for military recruitment. They're in our school all the time, and they're wearing their big flashy, fancy outfit uniforms. They work with the gym classes where they like kind of simulate boot camp and get them all excited about that and give them their scores. We harass people to sign up for the ASVAB, which is the test they have to take to join the military. And we had just had that week, like kind of a Veterans Day, where a whole bunch of military veterans came into the school and talked to all the social studies classes and kind of filled their head with that. So I was kind of fed up from all that. And of course, all the girls are fawning over the military men that come in the school and, oh my God, he's so hot, look at his muscles. And, you know, the young teenage boys, they want to be that guy. It's horrible. So, I mean, I was kind of coming off that and I heard your interview and then came the video.
That's great. And yeah, I've always hated hearing that. Thank you for your service. It'll be just some 20-year-old kid who sits behind a keyboard in Virginia with a joystick killing families in like Iraq on it like it's a video game. Thank you for your service, and not to mention that the money that he gets paid from it is all stolen money. So he's essentially on welfare. Right. Of all the people to thank,
it's welfare for sociopaths. I think that was Chris Cantwell that said that on blog the other day. Welfare for sociopaths, and I mean I definitely can't disagree with that. So. And yeah, with the whole military shooting games, like the Call of Duty and everything, my high school juniors, they take off days at a time when a new game comes out just to play. So, and I don't blame them. Like, I wouldn't want to be in school either.
Yeah, the propaganda is everywhere in the U.S. It's really just overwhelming, and must be hard for you to have to see it all through these eyes of an anarchist now, and see these government people in your schools trying to recruit kids to go off and die somewhere for nothing, for mostly aggression and violence for no reason whatsoever. And
yeah, the administration, they support it, they encourage it, they love it, they shove it down our throats. Teachers, I hear them say all the time, like, oh yeah, that kid, he could really benefit from enlisting and being a part of the military. He needs some straightening out, and he really needs to get a good, I don't even know, like boot camp and yelling at and screaming at. That'll really whip him in shape. So I hear it a lot. It's definitely on a pedestal.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's funny because the schools themselves are basically public indoctrination camps, and they're just constantly putting all this information into kids, all this propaganda about many things that just aren't correct or just outright propaganda. And then if they don't really conform, which is a big part of what they want them to do, and to obey authority, that's what some of the people in these schools think is, oh, after 12 years of trying to make them all conform and not be individuals and be part of the collective and to obey and memorize information and not think creatively, if they're still not, getting it all, and they don't really like it, which is actually an excellent sign, let's put him into some sort of a boot camp where he's just yelled at even more, and it's just terrible.
Oh, it's awful. But I don't know. It's tough, definitely working in a public school and seeing all that, especially with the military aspect and a lot of other things. I try to make the best of it, though. I just taught my seniors about Bitcoin. We did a unit on that. I teach math, so you can kind of argue math, money, it works. And I did it in a way that's still, like, I wasn't telling them what to think, like kind of propaganda the other way. I showed them both sides. We kind of viewed a couple of videos. I had them write down their reaction after each one. And we discussed it, and so they're exposed to Bitcoin now. A lot of them didn't really know what to think, and a lot of them didn't know how to react. And the ones that did kind of get upset about it, it was a lot more people getting upset about it than getting excited. Like there was this one guy who's joining the military, of course. He got really upset that Bitcoin is harder to tax. And so that means that there's less money going to the military and the government, and that's bullshit. We should be supporting our country. And I mean, it opened up very interesting conversations we had that week. And a lot of people just kind of throwing out senseless statements like, this is stupid, it's never going to catch on, it's not real money. I had a bunch of kids upset that criminals have used it before. A lot of people not really understanding how the whole online wallet concept worked and think that it's so easy to be hacked into. So a lot of misconceptions, I tried to steer them in the other way without like letting my opinion show through too much. I kind of wanted them to make up their own mind. But I would say before I started teaching Bitcoin, I kind of asked, first of all, and maybe only 2 of them ever heard about it out of 25. And so now they've at least heard about it and they're exposed, and yeah, so.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's so great. I'm so glad to hear that. And it is interesting to see the reactions. Wow, so statusly brainwashed already. What age groups do you teach?
I teach juniors and seniors. And so I did that lesson with my seniors. And they're gone. They're so far gone into indoctrination land. They're so jaded. They don't know how to react. So, and actually, I think I might make another video about that because I have like a lot of, like, they had to write it down. So that would be interesting to kind of throw up on the screen, like what they wrote down. Just a lot of crazy things. But, you know, even if they don't like it, they did like a whole web search where they had to find, you know, 2 authors that wrote about Bitcoin, 5 businesses that accept Bitcoin and things like that. And it's exciting. Like next year, I'm definitely going to do more with like Austrian economics because you can argue that that's math as well. I'm going to do some stuff with like inflation and all the numbers on that. So I'm definitely kind of infiltrating the system.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear it. Sadly, you're just probably one of a few public school teachers in the entire country who are doing anything like this. And like you said, you might get fired just for talking about this, which is an interesting statement because, of course, if you just said, hey, the military's great, go ahead and take stolen money, go on welfare, and go and kill people you've never met for no reason whatsoever except for to line the pockets of a few people in the military-industrial complex, you know, everyone would be fine. If you said, oh, the Federal Reserve is great, thank goodness for the Federal Reserve, you'd be fine. It just goes to show just how much it is really truly indoctrination camps. And so I guess when you first started as a teacher, you weren't aware of any of these sort of ideas. So it must have been an interesting sort of a transition for you.
Yeah, no, not at all. When I first started teaching, which was 5.5 years ago at this point, I was definitely still asleep. And now that I'm awake, it's kind of like I'm treading water in the middle of the ocean, kind of stuck. And my one comfort is that I'm not going to be doing this much longer. I am engaged to someone that is completely on board with all these things too, and we plan on homeschooling and unschooling our future kids. So that will be my kind of meaningful job, and then that'll allow me, you know, some free time down the line to teach about liberty more on the internet and teach math on the internet too. Like education agorism is huge right now. I know I saw the interview you did with Brett 2 shows ago from School Sucks. Yep. And you guys were talking about Khan Academy, definitely a great resource. But there are a lot of other good ones out there that have sort of a different style. Like there's a lot of people that do really interesting animations. Khan, I mean, I like, but sometimes he goes a little bit slow for me. Like he really, like, he doesn't pause and write stuff. He'll write it all out really slowly and talk kind of slow. But there's other people out there that have totally different styles. And I actually have a math channel too. So my activist personality is Katy Khaos, but my math online tutorial, kind of more agorist personality is Katy Kalculate, calculate with a K, of course. So I've been starting to make some tutorial videos as well.
That's fantastic. And I was just actually on Tom Wood's show, and he's an anarchist, and I haven't had him on Anarchast yet, and it's because he's super, super busy. He was telling me that he has to do something like 300 videos because he's doing this Ron Paul homeschooling sort of course that a lot of those guys are doing now. And and so I haven't. He just doesn't even have a spare 30 minutes to be on Anarchast. But he said maybe after the summer, so that'll be great to have him on. But it's really interesting to see because a lot of people are doing these sort of things, and I'm sure in the Ron Paul homeschool curriculum there'll be an entire section on Austrian economics, and so it's interesting. Maybe you can kind of gravitate to being part of those sort of things. It's who knows? The whole world's changing right now. I think these public indoctrination camps are going to be going away slowly. The U.S. government's bankrupt already and will be soon. The U.S. dollar will be collapsing. So, you know, the whole, it's interesting because a lot of people sort of say that, Oh, it's very scary that things that we've known in the U.S. for the last 50 years or 100 years, it's all going to collapse in the next 10 years. And it's like, yes, the transition will be scary, but there's so many amazing things going on with Bitcoin and decentralization of the internet, and the war on drugs is ending now, which is great because they can't really afford to keep putting people in prisons just for having plants in their pocket. And so it's while it is a very dangerous time over the next decade or so, especially if you live in the U.S. It's also going to be incredibly exciting if you're kind of already caught on to these things. It's going to be the people who really don't catch on until it all collapses that are going to be hurt the most.
Right. And I definitely think that, like, I'm still kind of in the closet, believe it or not. I talk about these things with close family and friends, but to my coworkers, oh my God, they don't even know this side of me. And I know I should just like throw some balls and just put it out there. But sometimes you can kind of tell the people that are open to rationality and open-minded and want to hear these things. But I work with a lot of older teachers, and I have a lot of older extended family members, and I'm just kind of like, I have one foot out the door, kind of posting controversial things on Facebook, but not all the way yet. And I think that I need to do that because I really have a hard time believing that I am the only, federal employee that's an anarchist. With all the information available on the internet and open dialogue, like there has to be more of me out there. And the more that people are, the more that people can kind of get over their fear and come out, it's going to create a network where people can cooperate creatively and maybe network together, and that would lead to a more productive job, more meaningful jobs, and just like strength in numbers. Like the more people that can just come out and talk about these things. And I know I'm saying that now, and I need to actually do it and actually speak louder than words, but I really think that's going to be good. So.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, I've been in this game a lot longer than you, so I've seen a lot of the changes already. And you're actually one of the products of some of the things that I was seeing happening over the last few years. It was really unusual to even have any women, except for a few, just a very few, any females, women and girls that even talked about these things. And now it's just going all over the place. There's so many, and I think it's just what you were saying, that they're starting to see that it's becoming something that they can go out and say because they have some support. They have other people who are saying these things. They're not the only ones. And it can be a little scary, especially if you're just surrounded by status and you're just trying to say this thing that no one's ever heard before, and they just all think you're crazy. But when you start to have people around you, especially through things like the internet, helps a lot. You can start to sort of build a base of support that you can kind of feel like you're not crazy. They're actually crazy. They're the ones who are brainwashed. And of course, if anyone ever had a rational debate with any of them, it'd be pretty obvious which side is delusional and brainwashed and just not rational or logical, and which side was. And you mentioned, that's interesting, that you don't even know one person, except for maybe your fiance or husband, that is an anarchist. And that's interesting because here in Philadelphia, there's actually quite a few right in that area. Larkin Rose lives in that area. Josie the Outlaw, I think she's just moving to New Hampshire now.
Yeah. Well, what I guess I meant when I first started looking into all these things, I didn't know one single real-life anarchist, but I've since gone to Liberty Fest, and I met Josie, and I met actually Julie Borowski, so that was pretty cool. I haven't met Larkin yet. Chris Monco, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. You should have him on. He'd be a good guest. Christoph Atlas too. He's the author of the Anonymous Bitcoin book. So there's, yeah, actually Philly, I'm learning more and more that it's a hotbed for anarchists. So
that's great. And one of the things I do actually, just so people know, at the Dollar Vigilante is we have something called TDV groups, and that just stands for the Dollar Vigilante groups. And these groups are just all over the world, and it's for people who want to get into a network of like-minded people. They're generally all libertarian. Most are entrepreneurs and capitalists and things like that. And we have groups all over the world. And so what we should do is maybe you, Katie, or someone could start a group there in Philadelphia, and that's how you can kind of meet more and more people like this. And it's very interesting. Are you planning on going up to PorcFest in June?
I'm gonna try to make it work. I don't know if we have the time and funds. Jason, he works, so, and that's a busy time of year for him. So, but we're still gonna try to make it up.
Great. Well, I hope I see you there. I'll be there. I just decided to go. I was invited to go to a Bitcoin conference in Washington called Bitcoin on the Beltway, and I turned it down a few times, and I actually didn't want to even go to PorcFest. I don't like to be in that entire area very much, especially Washington. But then I just decided that Bitcoin's just too exciting. I love going to these conferences. For people who haven't gone, go to any Bitcoin conference and just see the amazing things going on there. It really reminds me of the early days of the internet. Just tons of geniuses, and they're so passionate about it, and they're going to change the world. So it's really interesting, and things like PorcFest are good as well for meeting other like-minded people, and it's really great. So I hope to see you up there, and I guess that's basically about it, unless you had anything else that you wanted to talk about while we're here.
Well, yeah, I love what you said about the Dollar Vigilante. I could definitely start a group. That's definitely great. Meetup is another good internet resource that I've been using nonstop, and I was thinking about, creating a couple more groups on there. But I went to a couple of the Bitcoin Philly meetups, and that's just a great resource too. I love it. I love the internet. There's so many good ways to connect. But yeah, you had mentioned earlier that it's pretty much on the road to collapse. This system, it's already done. There's too many people awake. There's no going back. There's no, saving the system. And that's kind of like why, it's kind of hard working for a violent system. I feel like a hypocrite almost every day. But if you're familiar with Ben Stone's Beyond Civil Disobedience series, I don't know if you've heard that.
I've heard of it, but I haven't.
Oh my God, it's great. I definitely recommend it. And he kind of talks about how, people, one of the parts of the whole series is he talks about how if you don't hate the people that receive federal money, like the welfare moms, or like the disability dads, or the federal employees, even though you are still taken from the same pot of stolen money, don't be mad at the people that are just trying to survive in the system that they're incentivized by. Be mad that the system allows the crooks and the criminals to steal from you in the first place. Be mad at, the thieves that steal from you, not the people that do something with the money after. And by people, taking from the government, that's only gonna help to bankrupt the system and lead it on the inevitable path to destruction. And then when that comes, there's going to be tons of active agorists that have solutions. And so he said, if you are one of those people that is taking government money in any form, put it back into the cause. I do get paid all right as a teacher, and I could put that into projects that I believe in. I could put that into travel. I can use it to donate to other podcasts. So, I am trying to make it as useful as possible. But yeah, it's coming down, and I'm gonna help it come down by taking that money and putting it back into the fight for liberty.
That's great. And yeah, I've actually flip-flopped on that in the last few years. I used to not like people who worked for government and took money out of the system, like things like welfare and things like that. I just saw it as being just a second level of theft. But now I'm pretty much on the same page as you. Go ahead, everybody, take as much as you can from it. It'll just speed up the collapse of one of the worst systems ever created. Actually, the worst system ever created. There's never been a more thieving and violent system created than the governments of today, especially the U.S. government. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I hope to see you up at PorcFest. If not, I'll be there if anyone wants to come out. And Katy, why don't you let people know where they can see your YouTube videos or anything else you want anyone to know?
All right, my YouTube channel is Katy Khaos, Katy with a Y, and Chaos with a K. That's also my Twitter name with an underscore in between. You can also check out my Agorist YouTube channel. I wish I'm going to try to produce more math tutorial videos, but that one is just Katy Kalculate with a K. So you can check out that as well. And hopefully more projects pop up in the future. I'm talking to a lot of people in Philly, and we're going to start trying to do some journalism stuff. So look out for me in the future.
Yeah, I'm sure we will, and that's great. And I just had an idea about possibilities. If I lived in the Philadelphia area, which I wouldn't, but if I did, I would, I'd be an unschooler as well, if that's even allowed in the U.S. in that state. Who knows? It might still be.
there's a lot of restrictive laws, but there's ways you can get around it. There's huge groups of unschoolers on Meetup, actually, and I'm a part of all of them. So
Oh, great.
that's really good. Yeah.
Well, one idea of a business is maybe to become sort of like a math and Austrian economics tutor. So if, for example, if my kids were at the stage where they wanted to learn those things, I'd definitely be looking to a person who was a libertarian, anarchist, who was teaching it the way that I'd like to see it taught.
Right.
And so that's definitely possibilities that we can see growing with this entire movement as it continues to grow. So that's great. So check out Katy's stuff. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more from her in the future. And that's it for Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. Peace, love, and anarchy.
This is Anarchast.